Can everyone stop acting like you've cracked the code, you've reinvented the wheel, you know what everybody wants? Please just stop. You know what? I apologize. I say the word stop on this channel a lot. I realize that it may start to sound redundant, but honestly, I think the industry kind of needs to hear that. So that's why I'm gonna kind of beat this horse to death. That's not the expression. Beat a dead horse with this topic. That's better. Because there's too many times where companies keep thinking that they need to do something drastic. They need to do something huge. When honestly, once again, why can't you guys, instead of just trying to be like Apple and like, let's figure out what people want before they know they want it, let's try to reinvent the smartphone, why don't you be like Apple today, which seems to be the company that's listening a little bit more to users and saying, no, we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, we don't have to revolutionize the phone industry, let's just make what we got going for us better and cheaper, and then people will like it, and that's why you see the iPhone 11 selling so well. So yeah, today we're talking about the Essential Phone 2 follow-up. I don't even know if they're gonna call it that, but it's a phone. Don't try to say it's not a phone. You can look right on the screen. They have a messaging app. They got AT&T on there. They got a phone app. They got a Spotify app. It's a phone. Don't try to act like it's something else. And why this revolutionary new unique form factor is just straight dumb. And I feel like there was very little thought put into it. Let's begin. So I'm actually trying to challenge myself today because it's very easy to bring up the elephant in the room, which is Andy Rubin. He has, it's an understatement to say, some bad press surrounding him, but I want to also acknowledge that the people who worked likely on this phone and the original Essential Phone are not all terrible. Andy Rubin has been accused of doing some bad things, and there's some pretty good evidence suggesting why he's kind of a monster in the tech space, but honestly, I don't want to talk about that today. That's not really tech related. That's more just behind the scenes drama, and I know there's a lot more work that went into this phone that they're probably gonna work on than just what Andy did, so I'm gonna critique the product without bringing up the Andy, okay? Even though that could probably be its whole own video, there's a lot of people that fall on either side, and I don't want to get into that debate. I want to get into the debate of why I think this design is dumb. What a lot of people don't realize is they think it's just the old College Humor iPhone 5 parody video where it's like, oh, so it's an old phone that has a really, really tall aspect ratio. No, that's not exactly what it is. I appreciate the meme, I appreciate the joke implementation, but no, that's not what this is. If you look at how big this TV remote looking smartphone is in people's hands, it would actually be closer to me taking my iPhone Pro Max and slicing it in half. Height-wise, it's actually a lot closer to most modern day smartphones. They've just chosen to make it incredibly narrow for some reason. Why? Because they think different and they think outside the box and they're creative and unique. Well, let me break down to why this doesn't make too much sense. For one, keyboard. Why is no one bringing this up? Whenever I see people talk about this phone, some people say it's stupid, some people say it's creative and different. Typing on this thing is going to be horrible. I would love to see at least one still of what this phone looks like as soon as they tried to bring up the keyboard. You know, there's a reason most smartphones kind of fell in that same 16:9 regular aspect ratios because they found a way that it could fit comfortably in your hand in portrait mode, but still have enough width for you to comfortably type on. With this thing, you're gonna run into issues with it. Unless they try to revolutionize the smartphone in such a way that you don't need a keyboard anymore. Yeah, you can just dictate everything through messages. Why? Why are we doing this? Why has no one thought about this? As soon as you open that texting app and try to type, it's gonna feel like you're typing on like a smartwatch size keyboard. Even though you have all this screen real estate up there, you can read those really old text messages at the top, but the keyboard is going to be uncomfortable to use and very, very small. The next thing I think we should bring up is the fact that this inevitably is going to be running some heavily modified version of Android and third-party applications. Do you think you're big enough for third parties to start optimizing their apps for your rink-a-dink TV remote smartphone? I don't think so. It's probably going to take months before even very, very basic apps start optimizing for that screen real estate, which means, that's right, if anybody buys this phone, they're probably going to tap on YouTube and you're going to have giant black bars on the top and the bottom because Android's not designed to run on screens that are that tall. They're not going to be optimized well. It's going to be a very clunky experience outside of the first-party apps. And even the first-party apps, I think, are going to be a little bit awkward because if you're trying trying to make the argument of this is a one-handed phone and it's much more comfortable to use because the width is smaller, it's going to be pretty difficult to reach all the way down to the bottom of the screen and also all the way top to touch things at the very top, because it seems like they want to design this user interface around tiles that fill up that whole screen. And right now they're teasing images of everything being optimized and working, but I guarantee you if this thing actually launches, third-party apps are going to have a very hard time optimizing themselves, which brings me to my next big point: watching content on. A lot of us watch videos on our phones, and you know what? Most of our phones typically support 16:9 video playback. It's the most common video aspect ratio on the YouTube platform, and there are some tech YouTubers that are switching to 2:1 because smartphones are taller now. We have to adapt to the times. You're welcome to do that. That's fine. It's just, how is that going to work now when you have this incredibly tall aspect ratio? So now when you switch to landscape mode, you're gonna giant black bars. Oh my god. There would be so much redesigns required within each individual third-party app to kind of take any advantage of this screen. And for what exactly? What's the benefit? Is it lighter? Is it narrower? My personal guess, I mean, I have no evidence to back this up, but I'm guessing that battery life ain't gonna be too good either. If that phone is that narrow and it's half the width of most modern day smartphones, you could probably expect at least half the battery life. If it's got to power a screen that tall, I don't think it's gonna be that substantial of a battery life. And the other thing is, smartphone cameras are a huge selling point these days. So many people will buy a slightly more expensive smartphone if it means they can have decent camera performance on it. And here Essential is with their prototype that they've been working on for years. May I remind you, the first Essential phone came out in 2017, before the iPhone 10 came out. I used it and I actually enjoyed it. I appreciated using the Essential phone, and I thought that for a startup company, it was a very, very good first try, and that if they would have made a follow-up to the Essential phone, it probably could have checked a lot of boxes and been a very, very solid Android competitor to go up against Samsung and OnePlus. But then they had to go do this, and now I've lost all faith in them. There's only one camera on the back. That's the main thing I was trying to get to. The first Essential phone actually had two cameras on the back, just not in a very useful way. There's a monochrome sensor and a regular sensor, and there was actually no camera bump, which for 2017 was quite impressive. And I also thought the original Essential phone had a very unique design. It was very separate from what we were used to seeing in modern day Android smartphones, that I was rooting for him, you know? I was really hoping things were gonna work out. Not Andy himself, just the company as a whole. And now this phone that they're working on has one camera on the back, and it looks like a very awkwardly placed fingerprint reader on the back as well. Oh yeah, so we're releasing a phone at the end of 2019, or maybe the beginning of 2020, and we still don't have a fingerprint reader underneath the display, which is very, very common these days. For Android smartphones, that is. And I just have to ask, why did you have to go ahead and completely redesign the phone in a way that no one was really asking for when people were mildly happy with your first phone? It wasn't perfect. It needed some work, I agree, but they had a lot of unique features that I felt like they could have brought on to the Essential phone 2 and made something quite compelling for people. I believe when I tried it out, I remember suggesting if they just added wireless charging, because it has a ceramic back, it can support Qi. If they added some water resistance to keep up, if they lowered the price a little bit, they would have had a very, very solid smartphone that a lot of people would have bought into. Maybe make the camera performance a little better, because the camera on the last one was not great. So this is a classic example of a company missing the point. They don't understand what's good for them. They don't understand what people want out of a smartphone, and it's not drastically different footprints or incredibly unique versions of the display. It's make what we have better, make it cheaper, and make the things we appreciate more enjoyable in day-to-day stuff. Making the cameras better, making the battery life better, and giving a premium quality in a compromised price point. And now you have to go off and just ignore all that because we're different, we're unique, we're not gonna be like everybody else. Well, yeah, you're right. You're gonna lose money unlike everybody else. So I know I bashed it a lot in today's video, but the one thing I'll say that I like about it is it seems to be one of the few Android smartphones I've ever seen that has one size bezel all the way around. I mean, there's a little camera hole at the top, but hey, that's kind of neat that they don't have a chin. Why is it that there's no chin with a design as crazy as this? Why has no one else figured this out? I don't know. It's weird, but let me know what you think of this weirdly designed Essential phone 2. They might not even call it that. That's just what I'm calling it now, by hitting me up over on Twitter or joining our Discord. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you guys in the next one.